It's getting renamed.
It very well could. That's actually. Might not be a joke.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately.
All right, let me get my notebook out. Here we go. Go.
All right, so our cult today is the Moonies, also known as the Unification Church. So we're talking about Moonies and Communism today. There's a picture of Sun Myung Moon and Jesus on the moon. Very cute. All right. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be moon." So let's talk a little bit of the backstory of our church today. So Sun Myung Moon was born in 1920 in Cheongju, which was part of the Empire of Japan, but we would know it today as northern North Korea. He went to school in Japan, and he grew a hatred for the imperial Japanese regime. And while he was studying in Japan, he became a communist. Very interesting fact. After that, he returned to North Korea, and he had a teacher named Kim Baek-moon, who kind of taught him about the second coming of Christ. And Moon, at 16 years old, thought that Christ had spoken to him and said that he was the new Messiah. Because of this, he embarked on his journey of religious perseverance. So in 1946, after World War II, this would be in Soviet-occupied North Korea, he was arrested for performing sexual rituals in the name of religion. And because of this, he was tortured by the Soviets. And after this, he was no longer a communist and actually changed sides completely to become a rabid anti-communist. In 1948, he was arrested by the Soviets for staging religious orgies. Because of this, he was sentenced to 5 years of hard labor, but he only served 2 of that because in 1950, he was liberated by the United Nations. And then it is said that he walked all the way down to Busan, which is in the south of South Korea. And he began his spiritual journey of spreading his teachings a bit more. And by 1954, he had established the Unification Church.
So it's 46 when he first.
Uh,
That's when he was arrested by the.
Yeah, first time he was arrested by the Soviets, and then the second time was in 48, and he was sentenced to hard labor.
All right, so a little bit of characteristics of this cult. Moon proved to be a very charismatic leader. He got a lot of followers very quickly. It quickly spread throughout South Korea and into other neighboring countries. He targeted stressed adolescents, preaching that he could kind of help take away the problems of their life, make everything a lot easier for them. This 10% up here, as a member of the Unification Church, you had to tie 10% of your earnings, or you risked like ostracization from the society. And Moon would even threaten that you would pretty much go to the equivalent of hell. It was a political cult. They had political activism. It was very conservative after Moon became rapidly anti-communist. He calls it's a true religion. It's Moon, as stated before, claimed to be the new Messiah, here to bring heaven to us.
All right, we're just going to talk about some characteristics and core beliefs of the cult. So it's a messianistic Christian cult because Moon is trying to further the Christian religion, saying he's kind of the second coming. Their main book is the Divine Principle. They're trying to integrate all races into one perfect one to build heaven on earth, because Moonies do not believe that heaven is like a place you go after you die. It is what God wants heaven. It wants earth to become. So he's trying to create the kingdom of heaven on earth. And he does this through being true parents, because they believe that the true parents are who spread the heaven on earth. And it's a little sexist. I'm just going to go through this chart here real quick. So in the beginning, there was God made earth, and this symbolic unfolding is what God planned to happen with Adam and Eve. they were supposed to go pretty much just straight to a natural world of perfection. But Eve got tricked. She ate the apple. She did the original sin. And because of this, the cherubim flaming sword blocked us off from the tree of knowledge and sent us away from the Garden of Eden. And we deviated into hell on earth. And this was terrible until Noah came along, set us along the right path, just talking about God, brought us up. Abraham further, wow, all the way up there. Jesus and the Holy Spirit furthered the message. Jesus was actually supposed to be like the second pair of Adam and Eve, because they believed that the true parents, which were originally Adam and Eve, were going to spread heaven, but Eve sinned, so that didn't work. So Jesus was going to be like the second try at it, but he died before he could get married and have children. So instead, we get the second advent of Christ, which is Sun Myung Moon on earth. And in the future, he will lead us to the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, and the Garden of Eden.
It's all graphed out. Yeah.
This is scrapped out.
Science.
All right, a little bit of the kookiness of this poll. So one of the beliefs of the Unification Church is that World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, the Cold War, many of those terrors that we associate with the 1900s, he claimed that those were all necessary for us to get closer to the kingdom of heaven on earth. And it was specifically to punish the Jews for their failure to follow God's rules. I stated before, he preaches anti-communism very heavily. And Bucaria, many religions will have ways to cleanse yourself from your sins. That's what Bucarian is, the Unification Church. If you have sins, specifically like sexual relations outside of marriage, if you have sex with the moon, you can be cleansed of those sins and no longer have to bear that burden upon your soul. The Washington Times, Moon actually owned that for a while. He did lose it back, I think, 2010. And President Reagan even said that he read it every day. Then Shinzo Abe, back 2021,
2021?
2021.
Japanese official assassinated for his supposed ties to the Unification Church. The assassin was angry because he claimed that the Unification Church had extorted money from his mother, and so he assassinated Shinzo Abe for his connections to the church. And that would lead to a lot of Japan to cut ties with the church.
I'll be the prime minister.
All right, so we're just gonna talk about some rituals now. So just gonna first talk about mass weddings. So within the Unification Church, there are mass weddings. So Sun Myung Moon and his partner Kim Hak Jin, they would partner up people randomly. Well, not randomly; it was actually divinely ordained. But randomly, they would pair people up, trying to mix the races, and people they would try to marry as many people as they could at once. Just a cool of fact: in 1995, 360,000 couples were married at once in Seoul Olympic Stadium. That is the largest mass wedding that the Unification Church has ever taken part of. And then after the wedding, there is a 3-day ceremony. On day one of the ceremony, couples need to wash themselves very meticulously, wear religious garb, holy garments, they're called. And they need to have sexual relations in front of a picture of Sun Myung Moon in a specific manner. And then after that, the wife will pray to God and thank him for making her husband into a formation stage Adam. In our previous chart, there was 3 stages at Adam. There's formation, growth, and completion. Because Adam would reach completion once God's will was fulfilled. So after the first day, he reaches formation. Day 2, same thing, but he reaches the growth stage. And then on the last day, he reaches the completion stage. And yeah, the wife is the one who has to be praying because women committed sin, and Moon says that God needs them to atone. All right.
And you didn't alter that picture at all, did you?
No, that was me and Chris in 2023.
I would not.
That's staged.
All right, who do they want? They mostly look for untethered young people, gullible people, as most cults do. Especially rich people, because they have to be able to pay the tithing fee. The way that they recruit, they'll oftentimes become friends. They'll like do public outreach. They'll hand out flyers. They go to college campuses and try to interact with youth that way. They also oftentimes will like invite people to just innocent little parties or gatherings. And before you know it, you're now a member of the Unification Church. Characteristics.
Are we just gonna talk about their how they recruit? Chris, how do you want to know this? So they go through, they try to make friends with you. They don't come up to you talking anything about the Unification Church. They just try to make friends with you. You know, they hang out. They love bomb, which is basically like if you're a really lonely person, they try to give you an affection that maybe you're craving, and then they will invite you to hang out with them for you know in the woods for a couple days. Then suddenly you're at a 40-day retreat in the middle of the woods, learning about sun and moon. Kind of creepy, but you know it is what it is. Some popular characteristics of the church is that they are trying to mix all races because they're trying to create like one perfect race, which is a mixture of all of them. They're rabid anti-communist, hate anything related to it. Sun Myung Moon even wrote in his Divine Principle that the communists were going to fall, and they did. So that's kind of a lot of people said that had you know more validity to his claims, but I think pretty much anyone that knew economics could say that the Soviet Union is probably going to fall. They're very conservative. They are very adamant in their support of Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan, and they believe in transformation of self, specifically men, as they can become kind of a new Adam, but not like new Adam in the same way Sun Myung Moon becomes new Adam, because Sun Myung Moon is like our Messiah, so he's still better than us. But technically, like you get like higher up and stuff.
So just a personal anecdote. Jen Kiava said at 19, I found myself on a terrifying personal precipice. I was seriously considering leaving the Unification Church, but with no means of supporting myself and no safety net outside of the insular church community. The notion was enough to bring me to panic tears. And we also have everyone on my team was told they had to raise a minimum of $100 a day. Otherwise, they wouldn't be allowed to sleep. And as a good leader, if they couldn't sleep, then I couldn't either, by Stephen Hassan. There have been books published on people who've escaped this. I believe even one of Moon's children is criticizing his Unification Church.
His daughter, I guess his daughter is decently outspoken about her dislike to the church. Just going a little bit more into this, Jen Kiava. She grew up in the Unification Church. Her parents kind of put her into it since she was a child. And the terrifying precipice she found herself at was after her parents forced her into one of those mass wedding ceremonies, and she got married to a guy from Norway who she couldn't really even understand. And she was going to be forced to move to Norway to live with him. And she was really considering her life choices at that point. And then Stephen Hassan used to be a recruiter for the church. But after not being allowed to sleep for 3 days because he couldn't raise money, he got in a car crash, and that kind of showed him that maybe the Unification Church was not the right thing.
All right, so the final outcome. So the Unification Church is still operating. It's still pretty strong. Like I said, it's been mostly dissolved in Japan. But other than that, it's still running strong in other places. Moon did die in 2012. He contracted pneumonia and died soon after that. There was a ownership battle after that over the church. Some of his sons versus his wife. The wife would ultimately, for the most part, win. But some of Moon's sons would go on. One of his sons would form Car Arms, which manufactures guns and ammunition. They also made, one of his sons also built another sort of cult sect, the Rod of Iron Ministries, that likes to pair religion with weapons, AR-15, that sort of stuff. He likes to wear a crown of bullets. He's quite politically outspoken, but no one really takes him seriously. Moon, also just a little fun fact, he became South Korea's first billionaire.
That it?
Yeah.
Really interesting. And so they still function and they're the first billionaire through hard work, right?
Yeah. Well,
So would you say they're a cult,
Yeah,
without a doubt?
I think.
yes, probably.
The first time you see him in American news was supporting Nixon.
Really?
Yeah, that's
I
the
didn't
first
see the
time.
Nixon. I saw the ring.
Yeah, so that fits in with Reagan and, yeah. And anybody have a question? Yeah, they were huge, the Moonies. They've kind of now looked like they've broken up in smaller sets.
Yeah, they're still quite large. So like a little factoid about the Japan sect of the movies. They had lost a billion yen, which wait, no, it wasn't a billionaire. I can't remember how much it was, but it translates to $850 million. They just lost it, apparently.
Happens.
Yeah, it happens. So they were very rich, still kind of are.
Lost it like as in like through speculation and they just,
Yeah.
replaced it.
They didn't, didn't report it on their taxes. Don't know where it is. I don't know.
Or they were lying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moonies were, that's it, the definition of a call. And now they're kind of weapons for the show.
Yeah.
All right, good job. All right.
You want our notes?
Yeah, I'll take them. Yeah, I'll take them. Okay. Thank you very much. So, Kelvin, want to go? Well done. Good start. While you're doing that, I have to do something very quickly. How about this go away? Give me 1 sec, everybody. All right. Let's do it. I have your paper, don't I? Yeah. Give me 1 second. All right.
Okay, so I did action card. There was a title slide, but we didn't have to go look at it. That's Paul Twitchell right there. He's a very nice guy. He was born on October 22nd, 1908. When he was only 16 or 17 years old, he was asked to not return to his local church because he was being a bad guy and getting arrested and stuff. And so he went out in search of a different guy he heard of named Kirpal Singh. He ended up finding him in, I believe, somewhere in California. And then Singh moved away a couple years later back to India, but they kept in that correspondence and stuff. Paul really believed in Singh's religious movement that your soul is individual of your actual body, and you can closer your soul to God and actually be friends with him. But then they had a very hefty falling out in about 1965, early 1965. They had a big whole argument, and Kirpal Singh told Paul not to talk to him anymore, ever again. It's a mouse out.
Sorry, moved it back. There we go.
So in 1965, Paul founded Eckankar in Las Vegas, Nevada. It moved it down a couple months later to San Diego, but then it eventually moved back to Las Vegas. Paul was obviously the leader, nicknamed the Living Eck Master, which means it's very outgoing and very positive. And he's this guy that everyone should look up to, no matter what. Paul died in 1971. It was very sad. They had a big old funeral and everything. And Paul appointed Darwin Gross, or as his leadership name was, Dap Ren, as the Living Eck Master. There's some stories that say Dap Ren was like kind of the leader toward the end of Twitchell's death, but no one really knows. Wasn't a whole lot of reporting in the early days. So the characteristics of the cult that Eckankar follows is obviously the Living Eck Master is very charismatic,
very happy guy. They like to focus on the stress of religious people that they're not getting closer to God, despite what their churches are telling them. And then they will say they have the answer. They know it, and no one else does. You turn yourself over, join this cult. There's punishments for leaving. Only the leaders are given different names because they don't want to seem like a cult. They are. They want a good connotation of just a normal religious organization. And then there is hefty exploitation with suggested donations of $150 per month, no matter what. It's only a suggestion, though. You don't have to follow that. And then the rituals of this cult, the hue, it's pronounced hue, and they will just go around and chant this for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then after you do it, you need to make your own religious song. And that's basically your love song to God. You're telling God your soul is ready to talk to him. He will talk to you. They keep dream journals because dreams are the gateway of what your soul is feeling. And there are messages from God himself in there. You are allowed and encouraged to remain in a previous faith if you are in it before joining, because that'll also get you closer to God. And then September 17th and October 22nd are the Founders Day and Spiritual New Year celebrations, respectively. They have big parties at their locations. Do the Hue, like new songs for Paul Twitchell. And then I don't know if I put this in here or not, but it's believed that this is following Hindu religion from Kirpal Singh's teachings to Paul Twitchell. Their ideal member is just a religious person who wants to grow closer to God, or someone who's just turned religious, isn't a member of a church yet, wants to be closer to God. And they recruit through social media posts. They're very active on social media and commercials like that one done there. They're hoping to get to the younger audience now. They got some older people in there in the leadership. I want this to continue. And if you leave, you will lose all of your spiritual progress, and God will hate you, and he will come and he will punish you. Don't leave. This is their social media, their Twitter page, very active, and then even more active on Instagram. They post every 2 days at 1:00 p.m. here on the dot. Including that post on the far left that I found, posted 26 seconds before that screenshot.
You check, it's one. Too late, go.
Luke's checking.
You checking?
Luke's checking.
Was it 4 hours ago?
They changed their schedule.
Oh, wow.
So, personal anecdote was from someone who's only known as BMH, which is their initials. They were in Eckankar for 25 years, up to around 2011. And they moved to Northern California to sort of be closer to one of the bigger churches in San Diego. I don't know why they chose Northern California because San Diego, if they did. And her husband had a heart attack and it was really bad. He was in the hospital for months. And so she was praying and doing the hue through Eckankar and was told by God that he loved her no matter what she did. And she took that as a message to leave Eckankar and just go back to a normal church. She was told she would lose all spiritual progress and reportedly said, "I don't care." So take that. But today, the headquarters church is moved from Las Vegas to Chanhassen, Minnesota, and that's the headquarters church. Very full. That's concerning. They don't have a living Eckmaster anymore, as the eternal living Eckmaster has been named as Paul Twitchell, and they have a Manhattan instead, who is Harold Clinton. They're active. They're registered as an active religious organization in over 120 different countries, and they have 100,000 members, which that's not a very good ratio. And their books and the Hue have been translated into 25 different languages. I didn't find any of them. They're not online. So this is definitely a cult. Chanting the word Hue isn't going to do anything for you. It makes you seem insane. And one of the beliefs about the living Eckmaster was they're determined by God in the womb because of their atomic structure. And that, I don't think that's true. And my opinion is Paul Switchell was just salty that everyone kicked him out because they didn't like him. And that's an Eckankar. Luke has entered.
Well done, Luke.
I've entered the Eckankar, as he said. That's it.
Any religions are kind of close to now, would you think of any sects or any? I know they have some Christianity, they have some.
Yeah, they have Christianity, Hindu, and then there's some little branch that's going to like Muslim that they're kind of denouncing.
Really, so they were announcing. And they're still all over the world, 100,000 members.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the money amount, I think that's gone up. But yeah, they still demand.
It probably has.
Yeah. Tithe. You'll notice that little tithe. It's all good. It's just a little donation. Any questions? Anybody? Yeah, they're still around. I've seen the commercial. I saw the commercial on something. I was watching it. All right, good job. Well, a couple of people who were gonna go yesterday or today are not here. Randy, you wanna go? All right. Aurora, I kind of think we should wait till. There won't be that big of a deal. What did I do with yours? Oh, you're right. I thought I did it. Give me a second. I accidentally switched off. And this is one of the more interesting calls right here. I mean, they're all really pretty fascinating. This is a good one. One of those I can still vividly remember. All right, give me 1 sec. Let's forget how to spell it, so. Okay, go ahead. Can I move the mouse? Thought about it. There we go.
Okay, so I did mine on Shimmy Field cult. So basically, origin of the cult and factors that do this one. So the leader of this cult was, his name was Shoko Asahara. But his real name, he gave himself that name, but his original name was Chizuo Matsumoto. He was born with infantile glaucoma, making him blind completely in his left eye. So he was sent to a school of the blind at 6 years old. It kind of like background because it started, his whole tendencies started back then. It was said that he was a bully and he liked to extort money from the children, because he was one of the only partially seeing people, so he would extort money from the other kids. Because majority of them were all blind, so he'd extort money from them, in order to help them get to a candy store nearby. When he was younger, he had a fantasy about robots ruling the earth, and and becoming the ruler of Japan. And so I think that definitely led to his the establishment of the cult. When he became older, he had due to his like fantasy of becoming the emperor of Japan, he went on a big religious like spree, I'd say, and he went around to a bunch of places and he claimed to have achieved enlightenment, met Shiva, and he had a special mission, like because he met Shiva and because he achieved enlightenment. He claimed to have a special mission to bring Buddhism to Japan. And he could transfer his spiritual powers to his followers and take away sins and bad deeds from his followers. And then he also claimed that he had reached a point in his meditation that he could levitate off the ground with his mind. the Salvation Plan, so that was basically established after he got to the cult, and I'll talk about that more in like the next slide, because it has more to do with, the like description and core beliefs, but, the 1980s controversies, so basically, he got in trouble for a lot of things during his reign as the cult leader, but a couple of them would be deception of recruits, so he wouldn't tell people about some of the darker parts of the cult, and he also would tell them about, he'd keep a lot of them in the dark. He would hold cult members hostage and force them to donate to the cult, and he would also murder any members who tried to leave. And the book that he made about the religious beliefs of the cult, was, according to an article, had, extortion, connections with extortion. And then he also, an example of the extortion of his members, he would he would commonly take patients to hospitals and then force them to pay really high medical bills. And his teaching, and then for the World War III Doomsday Prophecy, so basically he prophesied that there would be a World War III, and his teachings claimed that a nuclear apocalypse was coming soon, and so he got that from a conspiracy from some war profiteers. And from 2000 to 2006, that was when the World War III was going to start, and we were going to be destroyed by particle weapons. Characteristics and core beliefs of the cult. So basically, it was a syncretic belief system. So because he went on his like religious spree, he kind of adopted a bunch of different things into his core beliefs of like his book and his cult. So he included Indian Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christian millennialism. He also met the Dalai Lama, but later in an interview, the Dalai Lama did remember meeting him, but he just put it off as like having like no like connections, and he was just a crazy Japanese man. And then his mission was to spread the word of salvation. So basically spread the religion and recruit as many people as possible, because according to him, after the World War III that occurred, only cult members would be the ones to survive. And we would be the ones to attack Japan. We would attack them. I don't think he had a real reason other than the rumor, but we'd be the ones to attack Japan to start the World War. And he believed that by helping to bring about the end of the world, so kind of like instigating a reason to like the World War III, it'll help to bring back Shivo, which is basically Shogo, not Shivo. The age of true law, to help rebuild the civil aspects of Japan.
Is that them all in mass at his face?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought so, but usually creepy when I go slow.
So, and then slide 3. So basically, basic rituals and practices. I said practices because only one of them is technically kind of like a ritual, but he was very into manga, anime, cartoons, etc. So he liked to make his own and tie in like popular manga and animes to make his own and tie in religious beliefs. And he initiations. So there was like 2 different kinds of initiations, but apparently one of the different kinds of initiations, they included a lot of LSD or hallucinogens in order to get initiated. I don't think there's any specifics as to what they did with it, but I know they were involved. And then potential members, or like the ascetic yoga and meditation, potential members could possibilities would be them being hung upside down or experiencing shock therapy. And then Poa, pronounced Poa in Japanese, but it was taken from Hinduism, and it was basically to prevent the bad accumulation of bad karma and save them. And so it was basically just kind of like a justification for killing people that were trying to leave the cult, or like, because it was against their beliefs to kill people. But with like their belief in Poa, which was a god, they justified the killings of these people to like keep away the bad karma. And then in order to be initiated, you would have to, I'm pretty sure, drink a vial of Asahara's blood. And according to one witness account, he paid $8,100 for that, which is the equivalent of 1,191,824,000 Japanese yen, just to drink blood. And that would help you to get initiated to the cult. A lot of people did that apparently, so I bet he was rich. Cult recruits and techniques used to gain members. So basically, he just recruited a lot of people, but mostly like higher ups, like so like Metropolitan Police, like self-defense forces, because because a lot of them were like against his cult at the time, so he wanted to get them in the cult so they wouldn't be working against him. And then also the religion, it became a religion for the elite because when it first became established as like a religious movement, because it wasn't a cult, it was a religious movement legally in Japan in 1989, and a bunch of elitist college students joined a lot at that time. So he considered it a religion for the elite. And then the Salvation Plan. So basically he used the Salvation Plan, which is kind of like characteristic of a cult, which he would say that like if they join the cult, his teachings would help with physical and mental cleansings, and they would also help to up your intelligence and spiritual power to like protect you from bad karma and bad comings, and also keep you safe during World War III. Okay, so crimes and attacks. The first one was the murder of the Sakamoto family. So basically, the man up in the top left corner of the top photo, he was a lawyer who was against, and he was very anti Shinrikyo. And so he was fighting against them in court. And so Asahara was not very happy with that. So they made a plan to assassinate him. And so that one evening they brought 14 hypodermic needles full of potassium chloride, and they were planning to stick him with them.
Potassium chloride, is that what you said?
Yep, in the subway. But then he never showed up. So they showed up at his house and broke into his house, and then they beat him up. They beat the husband and then injected him with potassium chloride, beat the wife, injected her with potassium chloride, and also injected the baby with potassium chloride and killed the whole family. There were multiple assassination attempts other than that one, and it was mostly of people who were like judges and lawyers or people like anti against the cult. The Matsumoto sarin attack. So the Matsumoto sarin attack. So basically, let me explain what sarin is real quick. They made their own. So like this is the general definition, but like they made their own, so it was different. But sarin is an extremely toxic organophosphorus compound. It's colorless, odorless liquid, and it is a very potent nerve agent. And so in that attack, they were attempting to kill a bunch of judges because there was like a big lawsuit against them at the time. So they were attempting to kill a bunch of judges. So they used like a renovated like delivery truck and kind of just released it onto the streets, and ended up killing 8 people and injuring like 500 more over an estate dispute. And
In a state dispute?
in a state dispute. No, that was the second one. Sorry. That was the second one. That one it's just to kill the judges, and it didn't end up working as planned, but a bunch of people went to the hospital for like blurred vision. They couldn't see, they had a lot of eye pain, a lot of people had passed out, a bunch of nerve damage because sarin is a very potent nerve agent. And then they attempted to rob confidential documents from an official, I don't know where it was from, but they attempted to rob some documents on like how to build tanks and weapons. They failed. And then they ended up manufacturing weapons anyways. And they ended up making 1,000 assault rifles. And because Asahara wanted the cult to be self-sufficient in reproducing AK-74s from the USSR, for God knows what reason. And then the Tokyo subway sarin attack, that one is the most prominent and the most well-known worldwide. That one was over an estate dispute, and it was also to try and get, it was an attempt to get the police off, like to divert attention from the police because they were trying to steal, they were trying to like, they were going to investigate, their estates and like a bunch of Colts, properties. And so they were trying to divert their attention from it, and it ended up backfiring and they ended up getting raided anyways because of this big blow up of that, and they were caught. And that attack ended up killing 13 people, injuring 54, and affecting more than 980. And then in the end of 1994 was when they tried to steal the documents for the confidential for the tanks and weapons, but then they didn't end up manufacturing weapons until after the sarin attack. I don't know if they ever really used them. They probably did because there was a bunch of assassinations, but I didn't want to list them all, so
Yeah, big one all.
yeah. And then final outcome, Shoko Asakawa was arrested and executed on July 6th of 2018. And 6 additional members were executed July 29th of 2018. The cult split into 2 different factions, ALF and Hikari no Wa. They were designated a terrorist organization by Russia, Canada, Kazakhstan, and the European Union, and they were monitored by the US until 2022 and also deemed a terrorist organization until 2022 when they were determined to be a defunct organization. Like they were just like very broken up and not very so they just didn't really care. And that's my works cited, and then that's kind of just like a picture of like how Sarin interacts with fingers. It's the synapse.
Huh?
It's the synapse. So like where it like hits in the synapse like this.
That's one quick question. So they're still around, aren't they?
Yes, the two they split up in 2007, and both factions of the cult are still around. They don't have the same aspects, but they're both still around and they still worship Elsa. Mostly Elf does. The other one does not have any, like, doesn't want any association, but it's still because they're still like associated with Shinryo. They still have that bad rep, but like they're not the same.
And was the attack on the subway attack, where they released Sarins on the subway? Was that anything to do with the World War III kind of idea? Bring on the war?
Yeah, they wanted to try and like bring attention, then also like cause chaos in Japan.
It's interesting. A lot of these sound like Charles Manson, and also we have a little bit of Jonestown too. It's interesting. All right, good job. Thanks for coming in. Go on. Bravo. So we have tomorrow. Who said that we're going? You guys gonna go tomorrow? And then we'll go tomorrow, and we'll get we'll get going tomorrow. No sweat. Abigail and Fritz and Rick were supposed to go today, so that's a little faster. But these are great, really good presentations today. Well done. We got more damn games when we caught that train. Going on your record. Good job, everybody. Can you be ready tomorrow too? Can you be ready tomorrow? Yeah. So, yeah, we'll. If we're not telling you Friday, and we'll what? Sound good? Yeah. School and at home or just school? School. Yeah, it always adds up, doesn't it? It always seems to come in one set. I get it. Is it slowing down a little bit? Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. And I'm begging you, good luck. Well done today. Good presentations. Yeah, bro. Are you taking a picture?
Yeah, for posterity.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's gonna be up there forever. I mean, I'm never